Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In War of the Visions, the last video, I talked about the Final Fantasy XIV raid and EX stage, and then the free characters. And then in this video, I'll talk about my impressions of all of that, and then why I think they're not great, and also maybe looking at them and thinking about how the game's going to look going into the future. I see two big kind of broad categories of how this event is no good. One is poor design, the other is poor implementation. As far as design first, I think the biggest problem is that the free units are too good. That might sound like a funny thing to be complaining about, but it really creates a sense of fear of missing out, FOMO, more than your usual characters, because all of these other guys, most of them, they're in the standard pool. So you can get them at any time, you can level them up at your own pace. But with a Yashutara and then a Thancred here, if you don't get all of their shards here to raise up their crystal level, or if you don't get all of their job orbs, then you will never get them, and then you can't max out these characters. Also, you combine that with the very short time that this event was planned to be done, and then you have kind of a very stressful time where you're trying really hard to get all the materials for these characters. If we go here to the Vortex, and here, we can see that there's 8 more days of the event. That seems like a lot, but if you remember from before all of the delays and failure to launch the raids, it was going to end like 2 days from now, Friday. And then I would be kind of in a pinch if I had that many shards of Yashutara and only 2 more days to go. And then I am not a free-to-play player either. You know, I've been putting a little money into the game to get materials or to pull the hatcher. So I have more drops of Yashutara than I would have otherwise. So I'm wondering if it's even possible to max out one of these characters as a free-to-play player. If you have been able to do that, let me know how that went. And also, we have these 2 characters, Yashutara and Thancred. Thancred is kind of out of reach for free-to-play players, and I think he's going to be out of reach for a lot of kind of light spenders as well. But if we go here to the Mog Shop, we can see how we can get Thancred shards. Here in the Tomestones, these are the medals that you can get by farming the EX stage or playing the raid. They cost 250 each to get 1 shard. And we can see up here that there are 120 available. In order to max out Thancred, we need 600. So even if you get all of the shards here from using the Tomestones, you still need, what, 480? So if you go here to the coins, then we can get more Thancreds here, and then here there are 600 available, so we can get as many as we need. But these coins, they're pretty expensive if you think about it. Go here to Summons, and then Final Fantasy XIV. So if you pull a 10 shot, you might get 10 to 50 coins. So you think about that. You need another 480 coins, not coins, you need 480 shards, and then each of those shards will cost 5, and then you'll get as many as 50 per 10 shot here. So yeah, really, if you want to max out Thancred, it's only going to be super whales that can go for that. If you get the drop of Thancred, and then you get all of his shards from using metals, you can get him up to crystal level 2, so that will get him up to level 60 or 70, I think, max, if you don't go any higher with his crystal level. That is going to be a unit that will not have very long life. Once we get the higher level quests, which take, you know, level 80 or level 90 characters in order to clear. So I really can't recommend that anybody pick up the single drop of Thancred, because that's 300 coins that you could be spending on getting drops of Yashutara instead. You can get 150 drops of Yashutara, which would be a pretty big deal, I think. And that's another problem with this event, this Final Fantasy XIV collaboration event, is that there are 2 free characters offered. And then really the Yashutara is the one that is good for free-to-play users or light spenders, while Thancred really is only for the super whales, and there's not really a lot of information in-game to tell you that, so you have to kind of figure it out for yourself. Thankfully, I think I was able to figure it out for myself pretty quickly, but yeah, there's probably a lot of like more casual players that have wasted their coins getting this Thancred. If you were able to get the free drop of Thancred from pulling the tickets here, that's great, you saved yourself 300 coins, but yeah, I'm actually hoping that I don't get a drop of Thancred by accident, so I think I'm going to stop pulling these tickets actually. I don't want him in there clogging my box, being useless. It's like having a 6-star in the 7-star meta of Brave Exvius. In my opinion, in a kind of a well-designed mobile game that is friendly to all kinds of players, free-to-play or pay-to-play, all content in the game should be available to all players. The way it usually works is that free-to-play players, they'll have a harder time and it will take them longer in order to do that. And then pay-to-play players, they can do the stuff or get the stuff faster and easier. Here, there is a definite paywall between getting a max level Thancred or not, and then possibly even a max level Yashutura. So yeah, we can kind of get a sense of like what the designers of this game are really aiming at. They're aiming for the whales, I think. The irony with the free units of this event collaboration is that there is essentially a paywall in order to get in the most out of them. So that's a few thoughts on the kind of the unfriendly, poor design of the event. Next, let's talk about the failure of the raid event. As you can see, I'm tapping here. I said this in the last video, but there used to be a raid here, but they disabled it because it went so poorly. It was initially supposed to be released last Friday. They delayed it to Monday because of problems, and then Monday, I still remember very well how that went. But it started on Monday, and then like everybody was in there, and then like in the in-game chat, and nobody knew how to actually do it. You'd hit the buttons to see the available quests, and there were none. So how do you access the raid? It turns out that the information on how to access the raid was in there. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. I think it was this one. No, not here. Here we are. So the information was all the way down here at the bottom. They've fixed it since then. But here, under this Chui Jiko, very small fine print, it says that the raid has a chance of appearing after you clear another quest. And then, for like the first, hour or two, they didn't know that because they didn't see it here at the fine print here at the bottom. So they were in the chat and then asking each other, how do I make this work? How do I join? And the other half was just people dumping on Gumi and the producer Hirono. But even after people found out how to make a raid appear, the appearance rate was so low that still there were very few raids that were available for people to join in multiplayer. Based on what I've heard online, if you farmed the easy like 6 stamina quests, you'd get an appearance maybe like 1 in 20. And then if you played the EX stage that costs 30 stamina, you get an appearance maybe 1 in 5. I think that's way too low an appearance rate. And so what happened is that you had very few quests that were available to be joined, and then you had hundreds, maybe thousands of users trying to get those like 2 or 3 like open slots, and it was crazy. It was almost impossible to join a game. And so people were really frustrated. And then at 10 at night, it became really laggy and slow, and then like crashing even the game. And then at midnight, finally, they just went into maintenance, and then I woke up the next morning and I discovered that the arena was gone completely. So that was frustrating. That was a combination of bad design and also bad communication, telling players how to actually do the raid. And so now there's no raid at all, and they are handing out daily gifts. But there's no word on when the raid will come back, if the raid comes back, if it will operate in the same way, or maybe if they cancel the raid altogether. And then lots of people on Twitter are saying, just cancel the raid. Nobody liked it. and instead just raise the amount of medals that you get for clearing the EX stage, because those are very, very low, and you need to farm it, hundreds of times in order to max out your free characters, quote-unquote free. The problem with canceling the raid, though, is that was really the best way for free-to-play players to get enough medals in order to max out these free characters. Because I think to do it normally, just by yourself, you'd have to do a lot of stamina refreshes. And then, free-to-play players, they have a limit of how many times they can go before needing to put some money into the game. So yeah, that was a giant F-up, that raid. It still continues to be an F-up, and there's still no communication on what's going to happen from now. One benefit of the raid continually being delayed is that all of the other aspects of the Final Fantasy collaboration are being extended. So, it gives you more time to farm these stages in order to get tomestones. But that's definitely not the ideal way that, the developers of this game want things to go. What's amazing to me is how unprepared Gumi was for, this rush. They're creating a Final Fantasy game, which is a super, recognizable title, and then they implemented a multiplayer option. And then when the time came, they weren't up to snuff. And then the poor communication about how the raid would work led to that imbalance of way too many people wanting to join the raid, but not enough people setting up the raid. And then also there was an MVP mechanic in the raid where the player who does the most damage gets the most rewards at the end. And then what ended up happening was that it encouraged players to attack each other rather than attacking the boss. So yeah, maybe a lack of testing as well on Gumi's part. So I have to ask, did Gumi disable the raid because their servers can't handle it, or because they're like, uh-oh, this raid mission is really poorly designed? I think it was both. And so that's really sad, and kind of epically sad. And it's surprising, and it's not surprising because it's Gumi. That's kind of par for the course for them. But it is surprising because this game is only 10 days old. To have this much of an F-up this early is not encouraging. So, thinking about all of that, what does this mean for users now? What does it mean for them going ahead in the future playing this game? I think it's pretty clear that Gumi is aiming some content mainly at super whales, or it's encouraging people to become more whales. So players that are free to play or light spenders, it's going to be up to them to kind of determine what is worth doing and what is worth ignoring. So in this case, it's worth ignoring Thancred just completely. He's not a character for free to play players or light spenders. But even though I'm totally concentrated on Yashutara, it's not fun to have this, hanging over me for days, wondering if I'm going to be able to max her out or not. But I told myself that I was going to do it this time just to see what it would take, how much time and effort and whatever I'd have to put into the game in order to max her. But I think moving forward, I'm just going to ignore the limited time characters. Even though they're quote-unquote free, there's a high cost to maxing them out. And then I did something similar playing a Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. Anytime a limited hatcher came around, I would just ignore it. Because especially with the 7-star meta, I didn't want to be stuck with a single drop of a character. And so by skipping those limited time events, that was better for my wallet, and it was also better for my peace of mind. I was able to relax a lot more playing the game, not having to worry about those. And so if moving forward, we have raids, every so often, and they offer free characters, I'm just going to ignore them. But I'll still lightly farm the quests because there are all these other, materials that you can farm. That might be a better way to spend your time and resources, is to get these materials and then use them on the characters which are available in the standard pool, which are always available, and you don't need to feel pressured to level them up now. The question is if they do a limited time free character of a character that I really like they do Final Fantasy 12 or 6 or 4 or something, then, I might farm up that free character. But for most of them, I'm probably going to ignore them. All of this being said, I admire that they are making these free characters as powerful as they are. I like that they're not making them just like, you know, unusable like trophy characters. These are actually really powerful characters. It's just the amount of work they have to put in them is too much, and then the time allowed is too short. If they change that in the future, maybe if they give you like a full month, you know, to work on these characters, that would be great. If they lower the requirements, like the amount of currency needed to buy their shards, that would be great as well. But until that happens, I'm going to ignore these events, I think. Users are supposed to play the game. The game is not supposed to play the users, so yeah. It's important for us to, you know, draw a line, know what's healthy and doable for us. Okay, so those are my thoughts on the Final Fantasy XIV event. Not a great start for the War of the Visions game, but maybe a lesson learned, something to keep in mind as we move forward. I'm definitely going to continue to keep playing, but I'm not going to be playing as hard as I am now to level up Yashuta. Okay, thanks for sticking with me through that rant. We'll see you again. Take care.